You are now listening to the Friends of Rugby podcast. Relax your anus. Balls. Thick thighs. Camille Shat. Where's his neck? Eddie Jones. You're fucked, mate.
And we are
We're nice
recording.
now.
Hello, friends. You're listening to the Friends of Rugby.
I'm not friends with rugby. I'm not friends with rugby.
Oh my God. Yeah, we're the friends. Calm down, everyone. Calm down. Calm down. I'm here with my perpetually depressed friend,
I'm not perpetually depressed.
Frank.
Okay, I am.
Frank, how you feeling?
Sad.
You look a little tired.
Yeah, I am.
Why are you tired?
I just woke up late.
Did you go to bed at a good time?
I never go to bed early.
No?
No, I was doing my best work last night, watching some Westworld.
Oh, I got
Having a
into
good
the
time.
Westworld.
Yeah, I've not seen it before. It's good.
You probably want to talk about that more than rugby.
Yeah, I do,
You wanna
actually.
do
You want to talk about
Westworld
Westworld? Welcome
breakdown?
to the Friends of Westworld
I watched
podcast.
that show Adolescence on Netflix
Yeah.
yesterday, all 4 episodes.
With the Scousers.
Boom! Wow, what a show! I could talk about that too. We could do
Do you want to do that?
a show about
Yeah, let's
adolescent
do that.
Netflix shows.
Yeah, I don't-
Just the top Netflix shows.
I don't like rugby anymore.
You have to.
You have to
Yeah,
keep
if
the
I was
faith.
you, if
You
I
have
was
to keep
you,
the faith
no.
there, bud.
You know what? After I'm like a big Ireland
How
fan.
many defeats does it take before you?
After
Stop
Ireland
fucking
lost to
Kevin.
France,
Yeah.
that really killed like the Six Nations for the rest of it.
I'll tell you what, we talked about this yesterday, didn't we? How this wasn't, some people, especially if you're English and French, are going to have had a lovely Six Nations. But I
Yes.
feel like, for me, this was one of the worst Six Nations, obviously because of Wales, but there didn't feel like there was any fairy tale stories from any of the teams this year.
No, there was a few things. Let's get into this. Let's break down the Six Nations this year in a little tiny review that I call Six Nations Reviewed. There was I felt that there were narratives. There was no fairy tale narrative in this Six Nations.
There was no David and Goliath stories.
no David and Goliath. There was just a lot of
There's a lot of lops. I'll tell you one thing for the Six Nations. Attacking rugby is back. Like, gone of the days of kicking and then putting pressure on the team defensively in their own half. Now we're seeing teams who are more comfortable with the ball, some not always in their own 22, but just outside their own 22, keeping possession, playing deeper to give their backs more time on the ball. We have seen some incredibly high-scoring games.
You're seeing a lot more teams be more comfortable without the ball.
Yeah.
I think there was an era where we went into where especially Northern Hemisphere teams were always keep your hands on the ball, always have the ball.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot more teams, especially France, just not care if they have possession or not. They just want position on the field.
That's right. And that was always the trend, right? Like, you know, you're happy to kick possession away to pin a team to put pressure on them defensively. That was a very Sean Edwards thing that actually Wales and South Africa kind of pioneered a while ago.
I think we need to give credit where credit is due for this kind of style play because we know a team that just plays without the ball and wins all the time. New Zealand.
Yeah.
New Zealand is notorious for this play style.
Yeah.
And
They just wait for the opportunity, it'll come, and they'll make use of it.
yeah. 20 years later, the Northern Hemisphere has
It's
finally
caught
gotten there.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
hey, what's this kind of
Yeah.
style?
But I remember back in the day, you'd watch the Rugby Championship and there'd be really high scoring things, and then you'd watch the Six Nations and it'd be like an exciting game, 12-10. Like, not even that long ago. And then now we're seeing, you can't say that Northern Hemisphere teams can't even attack. It was Wales, even as shit as we were, we scored some tries in the last few games. Like,
Yeah.
So, and France, yeah, you're right. They play like New Zealand used to. Like, they'll just wait for their opportunity and they will take it.
I feel like there's teams that are coming in like this is a personal view. I don't know if it's true or not, but how I see it is that a lot of the Northern Hemisphere rugby developed solely to combat Southern Hemisphere rugby. So their playing style developed because they needed to find a way to beat the All Blacks,
No.
beat the Springboks.
No.
And now I'm seeing teams really come into their own,
Yeah.
like find their own styles.
Mm.
because you would see like, why are the Northern Hemisphere teams so defensive heavy? They're just known for these like super defensive teams. It's like dominant defensive. Yeah. And I would contribute that to the teams like the All Blacks. They needed to find a way to like combat the best in the world.
Well, that was the blueprint for beating the All Blacks when England did it in, was it 2015, and when Ireland did it in Chicago. It's like if you put enough, if you use that blitz defense on them effectively at the time, that would just force them to make mistakes, right? Just put so much pressure on them. That was a long time ago. I think the game has changed, but that idea remains, right? If you use that blitz defense in the right time of the game, like if you use it early, when they've got possession, you put pressure on the team enough so that they'll cough up possession and you can pounce on the mistake.
But what I'm trying to say is like the Northern Hemisphere teams for a while all kind of played the same style of rugby.
I don't think it was. I agree that they did. I don't think it was because they were trying to beat the All Blacks. That was just that style of rugby we played. You know?
I contributed it to like because when they get to the big stage, they want to be prepared to because like the All Blacks attack is just so incredible. You know,
we've said it before though. Their basic skill level is so much higher than everyone else, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think France are starting to tear away a little bit now, though. Like players like Bielbiari and like Dupont, Entamac, all their backs really. They all look as skillful as All Blacks players now.
I agree with you. We'll get into that second here, but I just want to take a note about that. But back to the Six Nations this year.
Yeah.
Another thing I thought this year that's kind of getting annoying about the Six Nations is the quality of the production.
Yeah, I agree.
Like this is one of the biggest sporting events of the year in sport in general.
It's the biggest rugby event annually, yeah.
Yeah, annually the biggest rugby event.
It is.
And I feel like the quality, I've been watching this since 2015, and the quality has been exactly the same.
In terms of the TV production.
The TV production, just the general information you get from the game.
Yeah.
Like they just don't have any kind of concern about letting the viewer know what's going on in the game. They do not care. They do not care about what's going on. Letting the viewer know what's going on in the game, what's going on in the background of the game. There's just a very big lack of information.
And I don't want like a graph and a little animation to show how rugby works every game. Like I want this to cater to the current fans of rugby.
Yeah.
But I do agree there's several times where they don't the referee will give a quick explanation. The commentators won't even follow up with like, oh, and that's what he said.
Yes.
They'll just be like, they'll be talking about what one of the players had for dinner instead, right?
I honestly believe that they don't even know sometimes.
No, they don't. That's the reason why.
It's kind of confusing, especially for people, because I'm a person that as an adult, growing up with no rugby on TV. Like if you're Canadian and you want to watch rugby, you have to hunt it down.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, I could just see and getting into rugby was very difficult.
It still is.
It's a hard sport to pick up.
Yeah.
And understand how it works.
Yeah.
I could never watch soccer ever in my life. Go watch a soccer game and have a good idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Right. But rugby is so different, and I just like watching this. And this year, I was like, man, there's just nothing new. Nothing. The production, the information, the camera work, nothing has changed in those last 10 years. It's all been exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you something that's happened, and it makes me kind of sad. They've changed who has the rights to the Six Nations several times in the last few years. And there is a feeling of grab the money, forget about the quality. Because when I was young, it was always on free-to-air BBC TV, right? And then, and you know, the stadiums we packed out, and the BBC would obviously pay the money for the rights and everything. But it wasn't as much money as they can get now. But it was a public institution. You know, in Canada you have those heritage minutes. It's like that, right? Like it was part of our culture. And now it feels like a product to be parceled off to whoever's got the most money in terms of who's paying for the rights to it. And there has been a drop in quality in terms of the camera work, because you're probably getting like mercenary cameramen coming in and they don't know the game. Like, right?
It's the biggest stage in rugby every year.
Yeah.
You think they would just be growing and growing and growing it.
Nope.
And it's been stagnant. And I'm
Yeah.
just...
And ironically, they're chasing the money, but they're getting a worse quality product, right? Like, it's getting worse because they're chasing the money. And I get chasing the money. You need to chase the money. But they're not doing it in such a way that they monitor the quality at the same time. It's the same thing. I was watching that Squidge Rugby video. He was doing an analysis of one of the games, and he was saying, I can't show you footage of a game because Six Nations have told me don't use my footage. And he said it, and everyone else has already said it, so I'll just say it briefly. But it's just the stupidest thing. Like, this guy is giving you free publicity. He's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, rugby YouTubers. He's not doing anything. He's not saying anything bad about. He loves rugby. He wants to promote it. He wants people to watch it. So do you. He's giving you free advertising, and you're not going to let him use your footage. You know, it's ridiculous.
It shows how desperate. This kind of instance shows how desperate rugby is. Because if you look, because it shows how much they're not in control.
Yeah.
Because they are subject to whoever's giving them money. So the reason why he can't use that footage, because the person that has the rights is saying no.
Yeah.
Someone like the NFL, whoever has the rights to them, the NFL is still in charge.
Yeah.
The product is so valuable that they'll bend the knee to whatever the NFL wants.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you look at the NFL or the NBA, they really embrace their social media influencers.
Yeah.
To the point where they hype them up.
Yeah.
Like you'll see on NFL on the YouTube or something like that, influencer of the week. So they start highlighting these rogue influencers that are focusing on their game because they know this is a key thing to get people's eyes on the NFL, because the NFL will do anything. Yeah. They'll do anything to get people's eyes on their product.
Yeah.
And rugby is just so backwards in that thinking. Like
they're scared. It's like insecurity, isn't it? Like,
I think
don't copy me, I'm scared. I'll tell you a story which is weirdly analogous to this, and is from Edmonton, as incidentally. So you know the video game company BioWare, right? Yeah. Very successful for a long time. They made the video game Anthem after a couple of games which didn't hit so well. And if you remember Anthem, it was dog shit. Right? It was dog shit. And I knew a guy who worked for them, and he was telling me that in the meetings and stuff, they were like, we have to make this game unmemeable. Like, people cannot take the piss out of this game. It has to be like, we have to be so good that people won't make jokes. And it just screams insecurity, doesn't it? Because a good game wants you to make fun of it, right? It knows that memes are part of the landscape of reviewing, and like, there has to be good and bad. As long as people are paying attention to you and you make good product, that's all that matters.
A good game is not afraid of criticism.
Exactly.
They're not afraid.
Exactly.
Anything good quality is not afraid of people talking shit about it.
In fact, it embraces it, doesn't it? It's like, let's talk. Like, we're really proud of our product. Let's talk about it.
You want to make fun of it? You want to make negative reviews about it?
Yeah.
Sure.
All publicity is good publicity, right?
We know the product's good.
Yeah.
So we know the majority of people that are going to get their eyes on it, they're going to say good things about it.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it feels like Six Nations have got that insecurity. It's like, we are so afraid of losing control of the narrative about our product that we're going to go after people and threaten them with legal action if they dare talk about it, right?
There's this saying and mentality in rugby that I think might be a little damaging to it. How people refer to rugby as a gentleman's game. Yeah. And I think this mentality is holding rugby back. And
the posh boys still run it.
Yeah, the posh boys and the old boys.
Yeah.
The old boys are still trying to hold on to this notion it's a gentleman's game. Yeah. Just show it on TV. Yeah. One camera angle.
Quiet for the kicker.
Yeah, and that's it. And they're just not progressive. They're not progressive enough.
No, they're not.
So the people behind that are making these decisions are just they're
too old school.
They're too old school. Yeah. They've probably been doing this job forever. Yeah. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. Yeah. And it's frustrating.
I feel like I was institutionalized a bit because of that. You know, in Wales, rugby is a working class game. It's probably one of the only countries where it is a working class game, actually. But even there, you have things like respect the kicker. And for years, I would always say to people, no, like, be quiet, respect the kicker, even in games. And I remember being in Judgment Day in Cardiff when, you know, all the four regions play each other. And a bunch of us were shushing this drunk guy when Reece Priestland was trying to take a kick. And then years later, I was watching a few other YouTubers and they were saying, like, why do we respect the kicker? And I was like, oh, you must respect the kicker because it's respectful. And the more you think about it, it's like, why only in that time? Because we'll boo and shout the rest of the game. Why just be quiet during this one moment? I don't want him to make this kick. right? He's the team I'm not cheering for. Like,
I do like that there's traditions like that.
it's a tradition, but
I don't think you should force the tradition on everyone.
that's what I've come around to recently.
But if you're in a place where, like, if you're watching a game in Ireland,
yeah.
and everyone's shushing for the kicker, you should do that too, because part of the tradition is fun.
It's and I think that's the point, though. It's like it's not sacred,
But the
it's
Welsh
a tradition.
or the English shouldn't be. They don't have to like shush for the kicker.
But we do that, right? Like it's part of the tradition there.
Yeah.
But what my point is, you're exactly right. It's like, yeah, you can do it if you want, but don't lose your fucking mind if people aren't. Like it's a sports game. Like we're going there to watch blood and violence, and we want to cheer and yell and scream.
Yeah.
Like why are we weirdly quiet during this? Why is it prayer time during that 30 seconds they take a kick? It's bizarre. And the more I think about it, it does feel a bit cultish, you know, and it does feel backwards and institutionalized. And like maybe it's time we sort of not let go of our traditions, but like open our minds to the concept that other people aren't gonna care about that, right? Like
it's. You're watching a sport that's very popular,
yeah,
does have a lot of money behind it,
yeah,
holding itself back
yeah,
for no reason.
There is no reason.
And as a fan, you're screaming at them like because rugby is notorious. There's just headline after headline after headline of financial problems, attendance problems, and it seems like the majority of the fans know what's going on, and the only thing that rugby has tried to do to mitigate these issues is fuck around with the rules.
Yeah.
And you're just like, stop fucking with the rules.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's a million other ways. We're all screaming, like, do these things. And they're like, okay, we got to get rid of the scrum.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, that's not what we're asking. Like, we're going to have more ball. Like, it's not what we're asking. We love that game. We love the game the way it is. Stop fucking around with the rules. There's a million other ways that you're just not projecting the game to new potential people.
Yeah, we're missing a lot. And that's the thing, like, yeah, rugby's big, yeah, rugby's got money, but like we've talked about almost every week, not nearly as big as we think it is. Like, if you look at every other major world sport, we're not close. And actually, we're in trouble financially as a sport.
You think that, like the MLR, this is a good example, the MLR, growing sport in the United States, rugby's vastly growing. MLR is kind of in financial trouble right now.
Yeah.
They need to do something to get this game off the ground.
Yeah.
And they, you know, a lot of fresh minds.
Yeah.
And the first thing they go to is, let's fuck around with the rules.
Yeah, they don't go to the Major League Soccer and go, hey, we're a burgeoning sport. Can we team up and do like a double feature event? No, they change the fucking rules.
How do we engage people more on social media?
Let's collapse
How
inwards.
do we make this game more visible?
Yeah.
No, we're going to fuck around with the rules and make it closer and closer to league.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt. And we all know what's going to happen with that. But I just, the Six Nations, like, it needs, like, rugby in general, but the Six Nations it needs like a fresh coat of paint.
It does.
I guess they have the new graphic, the new logo.
But it's awful. It's like, you can't even get that was the simplest job. A six almost looks like a rugby ball. And you fucking picked the wrong color scheme.
Yeah, they just fucking
the graphics are fucking awful.
Yeah, the graphics is awful.
You know when you like go to another country. So when I was in Japan and they have the okonomiyaki, which is like that fried pancake thing. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And they have the Hiroshima style and they have the Osaka style, right? And you go to all these different parts and everyone's arguing about which is the best style. You don't want to get there with rugby. It's like you go to the MLR. Oh, this is American style rugby.
Yeah, you don't want that.
We have less. It's like this is not a different style of rugby. This is a different fucking game. Mm-hmm. That's how much you butchered the rules. Yeah. And you got Super Rugby and they're trialing these different rules. It's like if you're trialing a different rule, you're playing a different game. This isn't a different style.
It's hurting the pinnacle of the sport, the international game.
And you can see it in the referee performances as well because they're used to refereeing one style with different rule sets. And then we're pissed off at them when they come to the Northern Hemisphere and referee a game in a way we don't like because they're literally refereeing a different game in another country,
and
right?
You just segued another thing that I was really had troubles with this Six Nations.
Yeah.
The inconsistency of the reffing. I'm not very much of a ref. I don't complain about the reffing a lot.
We try our best not to, don't we?
I like how the ref is different in every game.
Yeah. They're like an orchestrator.
But there's like, you have a ref that was, had a different style.
Yeah.
But now, like, it's not even that. It's like just the inconsistencies in the calls. There was some baffling calls.
Yeah.
Like some very confusing calls.
Yeah.
And the thing was, there was just no consistency around the thing. I can see that you're gonna a ref is gonna watch one game harder than the other.
Yeah.
Part of the game, that's fine. But there was just some general calls that should have been pretty simple.
Yeah.
That just went to the wayside.
Yeah, it did.
And you're just baffled. I was baffled by, and it happened every week.
It did happen every week. And it happened in multiple games every week.
Yes.
And this isn't, for me, it's not a ref bashing issue. It's a consistency issue. And it's if you change the rules this much and you've got one continent, MLR, with a different rule set to Europe, and you've got Super Rugby, which is two continents, is it? No, it's not. But, they have a different rule set as well. And we're expecting the referees to remember all these rule changes and remember there's 3 different places in the world where they have different versions of the rules.
Yep.
And then we're like, oh, this is the ref's fault. It's not the ref's fault.
No.
I know for a fact none of them are biased and they're trying their hardest, but we're giving them a possible task and they're copping a lot of flack for it, aren't they?
Yeah, there's just, it was just, I don't think there was a game where the ref was like more favorable to another team.
No.
But there was some calls that went against some teams that really kind of changed the game.
Definitely. Yeah.
There were some calls that really like just sucked the momentum out of teams.
Yeah, and then that's all you talk about instead of a good game of rugby, isn't it?
And it kind of crashed the game at some points.
Yeah.
I love that article headline that was like something where who's the fullback for Wales again?
Blair Murray.
It's like Blair Murray. Rugby punishes Blair Murray for doing something cool because it's rugby.
No, that was too cool. You can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that. It's cool.
I mean, and the thing is, I look back on it, it was objectively the right call.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
No doubt. But I've seen that same fucking thing even in the same game by Duhan van der Merwe,
Yeah.
That's what drives me wild.
There was a lot of inconsistency.
And it makes you sound bitter, doesn't it? Because Scotland deserved to win that game. They had battered us in the first half. If you score 30 unanswered points, you deserve to win a game, right? And the fact that we were in with a chance of winning at the end is credit to our fight back, but still Scotland deserved that game. I don't want to talk about the ref. I want to talk about a game that could have been, I don't want to... anyway, yeah.
Well, let's get into the games. Let's get into the first game of the weekend of the Super... I love fucking Super Saturday.
I mean...
I don't know about you, but I
like having all the games in one day, yeah.
I do. I don't like them having them all in one day every weekend because that's a lot of...
It was literally too much for me.
Yeah, it's a lot of rugby to watch.
Yeah.
I watched all 3 games.
Yeah.
Because I had to. Because I'm obsessive over this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But man... that I like having that one Super Saturday because it builds up. Because now you're like, that day, I was like, you know it for like 2 months down the road. That day is rugby day.
Yeah.
And I just cut everything out. I know I have 2 months to plan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that day is all rugby. And I love that.
I did like that it was a true Super Saturday is where it is all to play for, right? And it was a true Super Saturday in that sense because any team could have won it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was
good.
odds. The odds are higher and lower for other teams, but it was still a really good Super Saturday.
Yeah.
So the first game of the weekend was Ireland, Italy.
Didn't go as I expected, but still the result I expected is my brief summary. What do you think?
One thing, if I had to say a line for this, it was like, thank God, Italy are really into self-harm. It's like the team is like a bunch of goth kids.
They're listening to The Used on the sidelines.
Oh, this is dark. I'm just gonna go out there and just fucking sabotage myself.
Flipping their sweep out their hairs. Guess I better go back on my yellow card.
You could just count on Italy to fucking hurt themselves somehow.
Yeah.
And they just took penalties and they took cards in just the wrong.
At just the right time for Ireland as well.
Yeah.
It was like just with Italy having momentum, someone
Ireland
will swing it out.
lucky that they Italy are really into self-harm.
There was a key moment in that game, and it reminded me very much of Fiji Wales in the World Cup, where I think it was Randaranda not knocked the ball on, they would have won that game. Had Bundy Aki not been a fucking hero and tackled Capozzo in the 75th, 76th minute, that was an Italy win, right?
They could have. It
was on a knife edge. It was a single tap tackle that decided the game for me there. Good on Budiaki, saves Ireland once again. But it was I'm really happy Italy are much better. They genuinely are much better. As much as I dismiss them, and I don't think it's Ireland being as bad as people think they are. I do think Italy have improved, and I do think Ireland is showing some signs of fatigue. But they found a way.
If I was an Italy fan, I would not. They only won one game.
Yeah.
But you see a lot of progress. Like they've had in every game they've played. I think minus the France game, there was a lot of parts in those games where they were very competitive.
Yeah, they were.
And I think Italy right now, seeing how they're playing, even though they're not winning, they're exactly where they should be.
Yeah, and they do have a lower ceiling, don't they? It's not a rugby country. They've got 2 professional teams. Yep. They're milking every...
Now they have one. They're going to have one now.
No, they'll have 2 teams. They'll have 2
next year?
Yeah, Treviso may not be Treviso, but they'll have 2 professional teams. I've no doubt.
Because I think they're exactly where they're supposed to be.
And like they're getting... A national team, a good national team should be greater than the sum of their parts, right? That's what Wales were for the longest time. We were literally a lot better than our regions, right? And that's what Italy are now. And they're lucky in a way. Luck is maybe the wrong word, but they do have. You always need a couple of guys on the team who are X factor, right? And they've got Capozzo. He is that guy. Rhino Smith, I thought, had a good game. Tommaso Allen actually, and now you have Paolo Garbisi and Tommaso Allen, who can slot kicks. You know, because it used to be historically, Italy could stay with you in the game until they would inevitably miss all their kicks and start giving away red cards. Yeah, they definitely fucked up in terms of discipline today, but they were nailing their kicks. You know, so they have improved, right? Objectively,
they just look better all around.
Yeah,
and their attack is getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
Their defense, on the other hand, is scary, like not good.
They shipped 70 points against France, I think.
They miss they just have like a very loose, their defense is just, not that they miss tackles, they do. They're just not in position. They're not in the right place.
Sometimes you think it's a fitness thing.
Yeah, they're not. I think it may be a little bit of an IQ thing too, rugby IQ, but they're not reading the field very well.
Yeah.
Because you find because in Italy, Ireland missed more tackles.
They did, eh?
Yeah, and they're making their tackles. Like they have a lower, like Italy has a lower tackle rate than everyone else, but it's just like there's so many times where they're just like in the wrong position. Yeah, they're in the wrong places. Their players are not where they're supposed to be, and it just leaves like these huge open areas.
Yeah,
but this game For this game, though, they put it together pretty well, though. They had a pretty good defense. They really kind of gave Ireland a lot of trouble.
They did.
Yeah. And another thing about this game, too, this was the game where everyone was screaming, get Crowley on the field.
I was just about to talk about that.
We need Crowley.
Yeah, and he had a bit of a stinker, didn't he?
Get Crowley on the field. And then you could see exactly what the people that were like, no, he's good coming off the bench. Like this is the whole Prendergast Crowley thing, I think made it pretty evident. Like when he was out there, the attack looked very stagnant, very structured, very predictable. And there was just, he needed to take this moment to show what he really had.
Yeah, he didn't have a good game.
No.
And he missed 2
he had some
pretty heinous kicks, to be honest. And I thought, here's the thing. You know how I've been on the propaganda trains, justice for Jack. But I will definitely say that, what Prendergast brings is an X factor in attack, right? He is a bit more silky, and he'll take the ball up to the line, and he'll find a neater pass to put someone through a hole, etc., etc. I think Jack Crowley can do that, but not as well, But what Jack Crowley can do is be a physical, solid, George Ford-esque general 10, and he just didn't do that.
He didn't even do that.
And to be honest, you could talk about Prendergast Crowley in terms of what this game looked like, but I think just overall Ireland needed to put 50 points on Italy to be within a chance of winning the Six Nations, right? You're going into that game knowing we can win the Six Nations still. Yeah, results have to go our way in other games, but let's put ourselves in a position. And I know that Ireland can be ruthless, and they just didn't seem ruthless. And I don't think...
Now, let's remember this. There was 4 tries that were held back.
That's true.
You got to remember this game. There was 4 tries that were held back for some random shit.
Yeah, that's true.
So there was some fucking like
there's a whole bonus point left out on the field there.
Yeah. So there's like what was that? There's 4 tries. It's like what 28 points.
Yeah.
So this could have been a fucking 50-17 game.
Could have been. Yeah.
It's
I'm glad I watched it.
The narrative is like Ireland have gotten worse throughout this this tournament.
They were imperious at the start. Yeah, I mean, another thing I think is, they're saying to each other, look, we can win the Six Nations if we put enough points on Italy. Let's put ourselves in a good position. But when you lose the Grand Slam opportunity like they did against France, they didn't just lose; they got battered, and all the fairy tale stories kind of evaporated, didn't they? Like Cian Healy retiring, O'Mahony retiring, Conor Murray retiring. In Dublin, that was your fairy tale day, And yeah, France were inevitable on that day, but
I think there was just a lack of care.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I think they just couldn't. I think there was a lack of motivation from the Irish in this game.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because they just, after that France game and the whole,
took the wind out of their sails.
Took the wind out of their sails. The whole tournament. Now they're in a position where they're most likely not going to win, even if they pounded Italy. They're waiting for some miracles.
They needed France to lose.
They needed France to lose. They needed England to lose too.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
And now so they just kind of were in a position where there was kind of almost nothing on the line now, but a third place.
Yeah.
So it must have been kind of hard for them to get out of bed.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think just emotionally, of course, that's not what they talk about. They don't talk about that in the week. But you know that there's an emotional hangover in these sort of games, don't you? Like you can't be the best of the best if you've got less to play for. You
also got Ireland are the oldest team in the league.
It's starting to show a bit.
Yeah, so they're the oldest team in the league. The 2 youngest teams in the league right now are England and France.
Yeah.
And then it's Italy and then Wales and Scotland. So they have the experience. The experiences carry them forward, but a lot of their stars are getting older.
Yeah.
A lot of people that they've been relying on for a while are aging out or injured, and they don't see those big stars. They haven't come through yet. We haven't seen those emerging talents come through, but every other year there's always something. Like Dan Sheehan, we weren't talking about him over a year ago.
We were.
Like what, in 2 years ago?
Not
Dan
2.
Sheehan?
Last year it was.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah.
Like this guy just came out of nowhere.
I don't know, 2 years ago when they won the Grand Slam. It was a Dan Sheehan kind of year.
Caelan Doris in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Kind of really came out of nowhere. So like every year, Joe McCarthy's a good one too.
Yeah.
So they are bringing up. Like,
they've got talent, but the guys who win them games and change games are on their way out, aren't they?
Yeah, and you don't see. I'm not seeing like who is like a big miss. This whole Six Nations, a big miss in my eyes was Tyke Furlong.
Yeah, and he played yesterday.
No,
he did.
No, he didn't. He wasn't on the pitch.
Yeah, he was.
No, he didn't.
I'll bet you £10 he was, but he hasn't been a presence.
Finley Beelum.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He came on 46 minutes.
Yeah.
God damn it. Yeah.
But he wasn't like the Tyke Furlong of old was not just smashing people in the scrum, but he was stepping people, and it feels like some of these guys have just lost their shiny X factor a bit. Even Porter, who was just a monster in the scrum, he hasn't really done anything different. Just referees are just staring at him. Mm-hmm. They're just giving him death stares now. If you put a fucking toenail wrong, I'm blowing my whistle.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating. I think it's frustrating a lot of Irish.
Yeah, understandably, because it's such a cliche, but the dark arts of the scrum, he was the best at it. So they've decided to look at him more.
But when you look at the team that came out against Italy, they should have completely fucking annihilated.
And I think it's one of those things where it's like Italy weren't as bad as they used to be. No. They're actually a decent team now, and Ireland just had less motivation to win, and they've got some fogies in some positions. Because O'Mahony, he played his last game, good for him, but he's not one for the future, is he? He's not a guy you put on to put 60 points on Italy. He's not fired up in the same way that he used to be. So, yeah. A bit of a legacy game for them, maybe.
I wouldn't say if Ireland's they're going to be going through a transition period for the next couple of years. But I definitely can see how they're going to, their contention to always, because Ireland for the last, 8 years have been in and out of the number 1 spot.
Yeah.
I think that era is coming to an end for a little bit.
The best thing about Ireland is their structure at their regional level, their provincial level, the setup of the RFU means that they've got a safety net. They're never going to be a bad team. They're never going to fall through they're never going to fall at the bottom like Wales have, because they're, as long as they're producing X Factor players every now and again, they're always going to be in the top 5 in rugby. The problem Ireland have is not blooding guys at the right time and peaking in the middle of a World Cup cycle. That's still true.
Well, I thought in the 2023 World Cup they peaked at the right time. They just couldn't get past that game they just completely, they didn't even fall apart against New Zealand. They just let New Zealand.
No, that was a good game.
They let New Zealand get into that game way too early.
Yeah.
And then they played the chasing game, which you should never do.
Yeah. That was, and to be honest, that was the first ever World Cup where there were genuinely 4 teams who could have won it. I don't think that's ever happened before.
No.
There's always going to be New Zealand. Actually, some years South Africa haven't been there, but there was France, Ireland, South Africa, New Zealand, even England against South Africa looked good. So there was even more teams than that. How could I forget France? There was the most competitive World Cup of all time in rugby, and that's going to continue, right? France and Ireland have that structure in their setup now where they've got no excuse to be less than 3rd or 4th place, which is good for them. So you have to have high standards, But now we're in a super competitive world.
We're in the super competitive, super rugby world.
Yeah.
Where it's all super and competitive.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have to say about Ireland and Italy.
I'm
ready to close the chapter on that for...
well, I feel like we got more chat out of that than I normally do have an Italy game, so, that's not bad.
We didn't even talk about Italy.
No, we did.
We didn't even talk about Capuzzo and how incredible
I did.
he is.
I said X Factor. And then I said Tommaso Allen and Paolo Garbisi and Rhino. I was naming players by name.
Well, let's talk about the game of the weekend then.
No.
Let's get into the game of the weekend. Wales, England, 14-68.
Fucking hell. That was...
this game did not go at all how I thought it was going to go. I was fucking hands down convinced. I had my hands in. I was praising Jesus. I was like, Wales are going to win this game. I had no doubt. I was so convinced.
Yeah.
And I didn't even get a competitive game.
Yeah.
I just got a fucking... that clip of... Was it Adam Jones?
In the tunnel.
In the tunnel with his hand on his
verge
forehead,
of tears.
just looking out like that 1,000-yard stare.
That's exactly how I felt.
That is going to be all over the internet forever.
Yeah, it's a meme format for the rest of rugby now.
Like, that was just... Like, that's the image of Welsh rugby in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Was that right there.
Yeah.
That was the most bleak camera take I have seen in sports in a long... Like, just the look on his face, I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, when you're looking at that, if you're in charge of Welsh rugby and you see that clip, like, that has to be like a fire.
I hope it scares you.
That has to light a fire under your ass.
I hope you lose sleep over that.
Yeah, you need to lose sleep over that because
if you don't, you are not. We don't want you.
Yeah, because that is like that's the bleakest image I've seen in sports in a long time, and like you have to like lose sleep over that if you're in charge, because that was just. It was so fucking like telling. Like it just told the whole story in one like 3-second video clip.
Yeah.
Like it was nuts.
Yeah, that's how I felt. There's so much to say and so little I actually want to say about this game, right? I could talk about this for hours, but I don't really want to, because that feeling in Adam Jones's face is everything that needs to be said, to be honest.
I think what hurt this game and what I failed to see was the difference between the two teams. I saw one team, just starting to get their shit together. Matt Sherwood was like patching things up.
Yeah.
Right? But there was just still so little time.
Yeah.
And there just wasn't enough time to get where they wanted to go.
Yeah.
And you had England succeeding in developing their team in the image that they've been working on for the last year.
And it all just came together on that day, didn't it?
So this was something that they've been working on, because England did get progressively better throughout the tournament.
Yeah.
And you could see like the systems and the style and the feedback from the players. Like everything was coming together for England.
Yeah.
And they were just at a way further development point than Wales.
Who knew it was playing 3 fly halves in your squad? That was the trick for England. Isn't that mad? Yeah, it was like, because you're onto something which I really do want to talk about. And what I want to talk about is defending Matt Sherratt, right? Because a lot of people are going to be like, he oversaw maybe the darkest day in Welsh rugby's history. Like, that's dramatic, but it might not be wrong. But we have to remember that guy was patching the roof of Welsh rugby during a fucking storm yesterday.
Yeah, it was like a hurricane.
Yeah, he's like, okay, boys, I've come in for a few days. I'll fix up the roof. And there's a fucking monsoon outside of England playing 310s and 19 flankers.
And all his other workers like called in sick.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly.
Like,
he's just sat there and he's like, Jesus Christ, because we've not have done this next week. Like, you know? Yeah. So on one hand, I really like Matt Sherratt. I would love to have him as head coach of Wales longer term. This does not change how I feel about him, genuinely. But my friend texted me and he said, weird, Wales are playing like Cardiff. I wonder why, you know? We looked like Cardiff. Like, we just looked a bit sloppy in defence, but we looked like we knew what we were doing in attack. We just happened to be playing against the best English performance I've seen since the World Cup, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I want to say is, like, he's still a guy I hugely respect. We need in Wales a coach with good social skills who knows how to develop young talent. He's that guy. Mm-hmm. He just doesn't have a lot of international experience. And more importantly, he had less than a month to patch up our broken fucking roof.
Well,
you know?
I think he only had like a few, like, I think there's under 10 sessions.
Right. Like, you know.
So he's just, you're looking at two teams that had the preparation to this game.
Yeah.
Was miles and miles different.
This is Steve Borthwick's master plan he's been working on for years versus Matt Sherratt's hammer and nails, let's get this shit together in a fucking week.
Just fucking, you know what, we got a tarp here, let's just throw it over this roof
let's
and
do what we can.
staple it down as fast as we can.
And in the last 2 games before that, I saw progress. I saw massive progress. And all it took was playing guys in the right position. So I don't want anyone to say to me, I mean, I will argue with people that it was, Gatland still bears a lot of the blame for the problem. And he's less than 50% of the blame. But he's still partly to blame, you know?
If you're going to put... There's a whole system to blame here.
There's a lot to talk about,
There's a whole generation of stars missing from Wales.
Yeah.
You have players, like, leaking from their system, young.
Yeah.
It's another problem.
Yeah.
You did have a coach in there for a while that wasn't wasn't growing with the game.
Yeah.
And people were just kind of turning a blind eye to it.
Yeah.
So... like even we did.
Yeah.
There's just a whole layers and layers and layers.
If you're like me and a lot of my countrymen, you have seen this day coming. You just didn't want it to actually happen. I've been talking about we're in for a rough patch here. You know, we closed our national academy in 2015. We've underfunded the region since their fucking inception. Most of the fans never liked the regions. We bleed young players to the English Southwestern academies, then they make them sign, you've got to play for England at grade level. Like guys like Kepu Tuipulotu, Feiwa Boso, whatever. If you respect the decision, fine, whatever. But ultimately, these guys should play for Wales, right? They were born there. They should go through Welsh academies that don't exist, right? We have a big fucking hole in the boat, which we've ignored for the best part of 20 years. And we're surprised this happened, you know? The good news is this is rock bottom, right? I mean, we could lose to Japan on a summer tour, which would be that'd be kind of like banter rock bottom, but this is emotional rock bottom, right?
Yeah, especially with England in Cardiff.
Yeah,
that was
the saddest thing, wasn't it? Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, your fucking slave song on the fucking speakers, like
dominating.
Well, half the Welsh guys have left. Like that was bleak.
Like dominating the stadium.
Yeah, it's like someone comes into your house on Christmas and shits on your fucking turkey, and then laughs in your wife's face for cooking it, and you know. I don't want to
an open mouth kiss her.
yeah. I mean, but you know, I'm not saying it to slag off. Like, good for England. I'm actually really happy it's clicking. It's just sucked. It had to happen in Cardiff against my team. You know,
they were just like England just had. England were just tougher.
They were gritty.
Gritty.
All these guys who have been talked about. I'm thinking specifically Ben Curry, but I'm also thinking Ben Earls, Chandler Cunningham South. These guys who. They've been hyping them up, and I can see it. I can see glimpses of it. Ben Curry had a fucking incredible game yesterday. Mm-hmm. Chandler Cunningham South was just a monster. Itoje was class. How many turnovers did Itoje get? Was it double digits?
He's just awful to play against.
Yeah, he is. Finn Smith, Marcus Smith, George Smith, Brian Smith, all the Smiths.
There's so many Smiths.
There's too many, and all of them are good. They were all so fucking good. So good for England. I don't want to sound too. It's hard not to sound salty because I am, but you've got to give credit to a really good England performance, right? A part of me goes, was it us being shit? Was it England being good? Definitely both.
Definitely both.
But you can't take away from England utter dominance, because there was a moment in that game early on. Me and you were sat there. It's like 10 minutes in, and they disallowed a Welsh try because I thought it was a bit of a silly decision, but whatever. It probably was the right one. I don't know. And it felt like that sapped our momentum a bit, and that would have been a talking point, the referee, for me. Mm-hmm. But then the next 70 minutes, we just did not correct or come back. That incident was dwarfed by a fantastic English. No one's got any right to talk about the ref after that performance. You know what I mean? Like, England were going to win that. They could have scored 8 less tries and won that game. You know,
Chandler Cunningham South came on, and he fucking came on 18 minutes, and he's been kind of on the fringes of the squad. He's
been an impact bench player, hasn't he?
Yeah, or not even in the squad at some points, and come in 2 tries.
Yeah,
was just a nuisance everywhere he was.
Yeah,
for Wales. Another thing highlight too was the Henry Pollock kid.
Yeah,
talked about a lot in the media.
Yeah,
he's like the thing.
Yeah,
comes in on his first.
Yeah.
Test match.
Yeah,
scores 2 tries.
I mean, everyone scored 2 tries.
He must have been on top of the moon.
Yeah, what a feeling though.
Yeah. He must have felt so fucking awesome.
There was a point, wasn't there, where they zoomed in on his parents and they were like crying and cheering, and I was like, "Who the fuck are these people?" And this is parents. I was like, "Oh, fair enough, fair enough, I guess." Yeah.
He does look kind of tiny though.
I mean, flankers don't have to be they don't have to be tall. In fact, you want someone who's got like burrowing vibes. You got to get low quick.
His ceiling is if he can keep this up and he survives the way he plays, he's going to be big in the future.
And I think Squidge
in his next Richie McCaw, that's what he is.
Oh my God, yeah. But Ben Curry was actually pretty good. Squidge is an oracle of rugby because he said not long ago, England have a better chance at the next World Cup than Ireland do.
Well, look how young their team is.
Now I can see it. Yeah. Now I'm like, oh, that's what he was talking about.
Yeah,
he was talking about what was percolating beneath the surface, all this young talent coming through.
Yeah, because they are at this stage now. What's the next one? The next World Cup is 2027. 2 years now. Their team is young as fuck. And their team is good.
And now they're confident.
And they've got confidence.
And they can attack now.
And they can attack. And they have the players. They're getting the players in the right spot.
Do we owe Steve Borthwick an apology?
And the age is right.
No, we didn't say too many bad things.
No, he was right. And a lot of us are wrong. And a lot of people were... he was right.
Yep.
And
he just needed time.
Yeah.
He just needed time.
A little bit of time. And now he's developing. And what's his name? Squidge Rugby is right.
Yeah.
Like, Ireland are... not they're what's the word I'm looking for? They're not far along. They're not
progressed.
They're behind in this
cycle, And he didn't write them off. He just said England have the timing is better right now.
Like they have because England brought in all these young players and got them into the system, integrated them good. And Ireland hasn't done that enough yet.
No.
There's a lot of positions where they have holes in.
Yeah.
And they haven't found that successor to those positions yet.
Yeah. Or they haven't given them enough game time.
Right? And now they're behind.
Yeah.
The development stage for the next World Cup they're behind. England is far ahead.
Yeah.
France are far ahead too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like Ireland just hasn't yet found those players and gotten them on the field.
I would love to be in Ireland's position, mind, compared to where we are in Wales. But yeah. I think another thing I want to say about this is, you go on like the internet and Reddit and whatever, and people, and often not Welsh people, are very quick and happy to dissect the problems of Welsh rugby, of which there are many, right? But it kind of ignores a fact that is prevalent across rugby, which we talked about earlier even. Rugby is not in a great position financially. They've only got to look at England, who fucking battered us yesterday, who lost 3 professional teams in the last few years, and we know they've got a lot of financial issues. These and you look at Ireland. It's Leinster, right? Ulster are shit. Munster are doing okay, and Connacht are kind of like lower than a bunch of teams they should be higher than. So they put all their eggs in one basket, which is working for them. Scotland have 2 professional clubs and smartly condensed their resources, but their academy system and their youth progression is not looking good in terms of sustaining Scotland for the future, right?
You just wait 3 or 4 years from now. Scotland are going to be in kind of the same position as Wales, but even bleaker.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say is like in all these other places, they do have, private academy systems, enough money to keep things going. In Wales, once that ceiling falls out beneath us, this is a working class game run by small local clubs. Like, we've got nothing except that we produce a lot of rugby players. Mm-hmm. If we stop doing that because people don't want to go watch their team get battered in the stadium, we're looking at an Australia situation, right? Like, where the fucking floor falls out from underneath us. And yesterday was one of those days where if I'm a young kid and I'm putting all my identity and love into Welsh rugby, that was one of those days where I fall out of love with the game. And I look at football in Wales, which isn't actually doing that badly, and people are going to it more and more. I go, that looks more fun. And even the atmosphere I've heard at football games is better now, right? At national Welsh football games, right? Because we could fucking win a game.
Yeah. A thing that you and I pointed out yesterday when we were watching another bleak thing about Wales.
Yeah.
When we were watching the game, there was one key factor on the field that was missing, was leadership.
Yeah.
Because there was a point where they were going to a line out and they were just looked all defeated and they were just kind of waltzing over.
Yeah.
There was no one on that field driving them.
Yeah.
There was no one stepping up like, let's fucking go, boys.
Yeah.
Let's get going.
Yeah.
Fucking wake up.
Yeah.
There was no one there to motivate them. Like, if you look at England, any other teams, right? You have that one player, or you have a bunch of them that are yelling at each other to keep getting up. Let's go.
Like the dad of the team,
like,
right?
This isn't fucking over yet.
Yeah.
Pull up your shit.
Yeah, like have some respect for yourself.
Let's get our shit together, right? They were just like, when they were walking over to that one line out, I was looking at, and no one was saying anything. They were just waltzing over in defeat. Yeah. And the game had, like, I think there was a half hour left in the game still. Yeah. I was like, there is no one stepping up for this team. No. They're lacking leadership. Yeah. Like, what's his name? Jack Morgan. He was the captain of the team. Yeah. He's leading that team on the field with his play. Yeah. He's playing with his heart. He's playing with everything he got, but he's not leading the team with his mouth.
I've thought that he's an incredible player, but he's not a captain. Yeah. And I don't want to say anything bad about him, but this is the only thing I will say. Like, you even hear him speak, he's really humble and honest, but he's not got that charisma that you need, that Sam Warburton had, that Alan Wynne-Jones had, right?
Alan Wynne-Jones would have tore a strip off of everyone. Dan Bigger, because if it wasn't him, it was Dan Bigger. Yeah. Right? You had players that were like, shouting at these players, like, let's fucking go. Yeah. Get your fucking,
That was the tragedy of this last cycle. It was like all the bad things that could happen to Wales did. And one of them was not only did the entire senior leadership go, it was like we lost not just all our senior players, we lost our senior leadership, right? Ken Owens, Alan Wynne-Jones retired at the same time. Dan Bigger retired. Justin Tipperick retired. Like, every one of these guys who was not only excellent, but also an on-field dad, a leader.
All the dads left. They went to go buy cigarettes.
We're a fatherless team. And I look at guys like Dav Jenkins, Dewi Lake, Jack Morgan. These are class players, but they're going to become the Sergio Parises of our team, right? Because you've got guys like Faletau, who's still incredible, but he's not a talkative guy. No. You can tell, isn't it? And you've got Gareth Anscombe. He's not like banging the drum, let's go Wales. And like Thomas Williams is another senior player. These aren't charismatic men, right? They're not guys who are bringing up the standard in terms of talk,
You could see the lack of belief on the field.
And that's another thing. You can't lose that many games and believe.
Because they didn't just get physically beaten, they also got mentally beaten.
Oh, totally, yeah.
They're emotionally beaten.
Yeah. Guys like Aaron Wainwright, who we depend on for carries, they had his number all day. And even Jack Morgan didn't. Like, he's been incredible every game except this game, because England just had his number. They knew exactly what we were going to do, right? So this is the culmination of all the bad shit that was happened to us over the years, and it is fucking sad. Like, I want to be my usual jokey, piss takey self, but I was sad. I had to go sit on the toilet yesterday and just like I was holding back tears, reading all the comments. Like, it was sad. It was sad,
Like someone died.
Legit. I felt like I was grieving. So I mean, you know what? The positive side, things will get better. They inevitably will, but it's going to be long, and it's not going to be a straight upward trajectory. We've got some good players, but we do not have enough X Factor guys and enough leaders for this to happen overnight. We need to do a Scotland ayahuasca tour. We need to go and play Chile, Uruguay,
I think that's
Argentina.
What the summer tour is this year.
Well, it's two in Japan. Yeah. We'll go. We need that though. We need to just go play some shit teams. I don't know why every summer we insist, let's go play New Zealand. Like, we're shit. We're going to get battered. We need confidence. But this year at least, we're going to go play someone who we could beat, but we may not. We'll see.
I just wonder what the statement from the Welsh Union is going to be after this.
That's another thing I don't like about this current board. They have changed board members, but they're still very just like a bunch of businessmen with no feelings. I want to see a large Welsh quarry man crying.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I let you down, boys. You know,
Tissues
I want it to
all
hurt.
over the place.
I want it to matter.
Yeah.
I want it to matter, you know?
I want one of them to do, what's that thing where they the Japanese stab themselves with a sword?
Seppuku.
Yeah, seppuku right in town square.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Someone needs to fall on the sword. Legit.
Yeah.
Like someone needs to
does.
go.
Someone really does. Someone has to pay for this.
They do.
I think it should be Matt Sherritt, but
well, he's gone anyway. He's gone anyway.
Yeah, we got rid of him. We fired him. I was going back to Cardiff anyway. What the fuck?
Don't worry, boys. We got rid of that guy. We chased him out the door. He'd already left.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I feel bad because England deserve to be talked about a bit more than I have, but I'm Welsh, so fuck it.
Yeah,
Good for England.
England, like if you go back to England, they got progressively better throughout the tournament. I still feel like there was moments where there was a lot of games where they kind of snuck out in this one. So I'm not gonna I still think there's some points in the English team that are gonna get if they play a better team, they're gonna get exposed.
Yeah.
But what Borthwick is planning, what he's implementing,
we can see it now, can't we?
And there was a thing I heard that the players had a little bit of a revolt against Borthwick.
They did?
Yeah, so I guess I heard that the players came to him and were like, "Hey, we don't like the way the attack is being ran."
Yeah.
And so I heard this from a few rugby pundits over the last week.
Yeah.
They actually kind of like came to him like, "Hey, we need to change something here.
They had a mutiny.
We don't like this style."
Yeah.
Right? And he listened.
And it worked.
Yeah. So they were like, we need to do something else. We don't like this. We don't like this old school kind of rugby you're trying to force us to play. It's holding us back.
Yeah. I guess the question now is, if England played France and Ireland again, I know they beat France, but what would those games look like based on that performance against Wales?
I think if they played Ireland now, I think they would probably beat Ireland. If they played France now, they would definitely lose. They would lose. They would probably get their asses kicked.
So we're not saying this is the complete.
No, I'm not going to say this is not the complete package.
Because Wales are not a good team to compare yourself against now, are we?
Yeah.
Like we're the new Italy.
I think they got Itoje at lock, but there's still kind of questions at who's the other lock.
Yeah.
The back three, the Lucy's. I still think there's especially for 8. I don't see Ben Earl.
He's not an 8, is he?
He's not an 8.
He's an excellent 7, but he's not an 8.
Yeah, I just don't. They haven't found an 8.
Yeah.
Hooker's a little bit different.
I think Hooker, they're fine. Theo Dan, Cowan Dickey, Jamie George. That's a position of strength, I think.
I think just Stewart and Hayes.
Yeah.
I think it's Stewart and Hayes. Yeah, they kind of are questionable tight heads. I don't know if they're world class.
Yeah,
the center pairings are kind of all over the place.
Yeah,
they don't know who their fullback is. They got fucking Marcus.
The annoying thing is Marcus Smith is actually a really good fullback, but he's not a fullback for Harlequins, is he?
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a weird one.
I think Alex Mitchell at 9 is probably their most stable position.
Yeah,
and they got. I would say Ellis Gange, Itoje, and Alex Mitchell are their lockdown players.
Yeah.
And then everyone else, I think, is not 100% taking the role.
So it's not as emphatic as we think in terms of their identity. The
only reason why Ben Earl is playing number 8 is because there's literally no one else.
Because Don Bratt just couldn't fill that role.
And and their other best 8 is playing in France.
Yeah, he is.
Finn Smith at 10.
He's the guy. He's the guy.
I think he's turning. I think they're getting confident that he is the guy.
He is definitely the guy.
He's good. He's calm, collective. He plays well. He distributes really well. He's good defensively. So he's going to be putting up his hand. I think they're trying to find him, but there's a lot, especially the center pairing. They don't know what's going on there.
For years, England have not had a steady centre partnership, and it was always because it was Tuolangi if he was fit, which was a massive fucking if. And now Ollie Lawrence is injured. All of a sudden, you're left with the same problem with not only do they not know who they want to play there, the guys they do want to play there are injured. So for years, it's been a perpetual problem for England.
And I think he's mismanaging. I think Borthwick's mismanaging Marcus Smith.
I think
he's the better 10 out of the two. He's got the most experience out of the two.
Yeah.
He just doesn't know how to implement Marcus Smith as a 10
No, he
his system.
doesn't. And he knows that Marcus Smith, if you give him space, he's a good attacker. He's a good fullback.
He's probably going to be the 10 for the Lions, Marcus Smith. If not, him and Finn Russell.
Yeah.
And you'll see Andy Farrell utilize him correctly.
Yeah, I think
Borthwick just doesn't know what to do with this guy that's playing, like, he's playing new rugby.
Yeah.
Right? And Borthwick's still playing, like, he's still thinking like it's 2003.
Leicester in the 90s, yeah.
And Marcus Smith is he's in 2025.
Yeah.
Right? He's even in 2027. He's in the future.
Yeah.
Right? And Borthwick's just not there yet. And he's just, like, Marcus Smith should be the starting 10.
Yeah.
And they should have the best attack in the Northern Hemisphere with their players they have. And he just doesn't know him and, is it Wigglesworth?
Richard Wigglesworth.
Yeah, he's the attack coach.
Yeah.
They just not,
Wigglesworth.
they just are, they're stuck in 2010. They're stuck in 2007.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, from the game yesterday, though, you've said a lot of stuff I wasn't expecting. I thought you were going to say lots of nice things about England, but all the stuff you've said is all the stuff people have been saying for months, that they're still playing a bit of an outdated style of rugby.
Yeah.
They have the players to do something cool, but they just don't know how to use them.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not 100% sold on the success of England, because they have a coach that is just, he's not in 2025.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
They'll stick with him now, though.
They'll stick with him now,
Yeah.
but they could be better.
They could be, but their
If they
ceiling
had
is high, isn't
Their
it?
ceiling is really high.
Yeah.
He has a lot of talent. Borthwick is lucky with the talent he has, because I think he's mismanaged the talent.
Yeah.
He's not put them in the right places.
Yeah.
So he's lucky. I would say Borthwick is a very lucky coach. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would say. He's got a lot of talent, but he's not.
He's the kid with all the toys.
The team could be way better.
Yeah, I can't think I agree.
And the fact that they're not is because of solely, like, in my eyes, my personal opinion.
Yeah.
It's Borthwick.
Do you know who they're missing? Mike Brown.
Mike Brown, if he was there.
Yeah, I tell you who had a good game yesterday. Elliot Daly. He loves haunting Wales. He is the fucking ghost of the Millennium Stadium. That guy,
he's changed games I've seen him come in a lot of games, and I don't rate him very high at all.
No, me too. And then he just always proves me wrong.
He's just good, and I'm just like, fuck.
He's the Willie LaRue of England.
Yeah, he just
Right till Elliot Daly gets
he's just he's a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Like, he's just
But he shows up though, doesn't he? He's got that emotionally. He's got that dog in him.
Yeah,
he does.
He does, and he's he's fast.
He is fast.
He's an older guy, and he's big too. He's a big guy. He's like 6'3", 6'4", and he's he's heavy.
Yeah,
and he's fucking got some speed on him too.
I know. He's the perfect rugby player.
Well, let's go to the last game of the weekend, and it was France, Scotland.
Your thoughts, Stephen?
I had something to say about this game. This game was really the French need to get up this morning, go online and say, thank you, Sean Edwards. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because this game was literally a battle of offense versus defense.
Yeah.
And if it was any other fucking team, Scotland would have had 90 points.
Yeah.
Right? But
they played well, didn't they, for a while?
My God.
Yeah.
It was insane.
I thought they did everything they could.
The Scottish attack is fucking...
It's multi-layered. It's fast. It's unexpected.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy good. And if it wasn't for Sean Edwards, and that defense, this would have been a totally different game.
Do you know what's funny about Sean Edwards is all the interviews you hear about him, you think he's some kind of wizard like Felix Jones, like he's a hyper-analytical guy. No. He's not. He puts up a PowerPoint presentation and shouts at people. Yeah. Like, if you do that again, I'll fucking kill you. And they're like, okay, Sean. Like, he's just like a drill sergeant, right?
Yeah.
He's just the ultimate angry motivator, isn't he? He just smash people when they're playing for Sean Edwards.
It was just insane. When you're watching that game, the Scottish, that back line, even their forwards stepped up in this game too. They played really well, and they attacked, and they play a really high risk fast game.
They look like Australia 10 years ago.
I swear, if it was any other team they were playing against, that scoreline would have looked way different.
Well, it would have looked like Wales Scotland in that first half, wouldn't it? That's exactly what they did. And what I respect about Scotland is they don't plan to play against you. They don't go, they're going to do this, and this is how we're going to counter it. What I like about Scotland is, fuck you, we're going to play Scotland rugby. And they do. And they do. It's impressive as well, right? It's good rugby. But
they just, if you look at the stats for, just the attack, it's just double or triple what France did.
Yeah.
France, this game got a lot of the tries were basically off of French fuck ups.
Scottish fuck ups.
And there was there were some questionable calls against Scotland too that I thought were pretty odd.
The Motherfucker Jones incident.
incident.
That fucking guy's pushing his luck. Like
how that wasn't a red card, like a straight red, was just.
I saw some absolutely egregious shit on the internet this morning. Some guy was comparing it to Andrew Porter and Tyke Byrne injuring DuPont and saying it was the same thing. It was not even close. Motherfucker Jones off the ball after the whistle headbutted a guy on the ground.
Yeah.
And the ref was like, yeah, it seems kind of dodgy. I'll give you yellow. Like
it was an attack on him, and
it was assault.
It was assault, and they got away with murder with that one.
Yeah.
I was fucking surprised.
Yeah.
By that. I was like, oh, he's gone for the game. No, he's back.
No, he's back somehow. Somehow he returned.
Somehow he came back, but fucking the French defense is just unreal.
It's Sean Edwards' defense.
It's
TM.
fucking crazy.
Yeah,
they were just a iron wall. Like they just couldn't. No one. And man, Scotland. Like I said, it was like if you watch that game, you were like fascinated by how Finn Russell, man, he is such a smooth operator.
He's a Rolls Royce of a player.
He takes that ball right to the line,
yeah,
and someone's just about to crush the shit out of him,
and he's laughing while he does it,
and that ball just gets out of his hands.
Yeah,
and he's just a wizard.
He takes hits like a champion, doesn't he? Yeah.
Him and Blair Kinghorn.
Yeah,
like they just. Fuck, man. Blair Kinghorn, too.
They're fearless, aren't they? They're brave motherfuckers. Yeah,
he just finds a little gap. Boom, he's gone. Like, those two guys are Oh, man. They're for
Imagine
sure
them
lines.
with Tuipolatu back, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that would be the ultimate backline.
Yeah.
Because I love me some Darcy Graham as well.
I think with Tuipolatu there, Scotland... Yeah, that was a big key and leadership that they were missing in this one. I think that would have changed a lot of the games.
I'll tell you something else. And we're talking in terms of the Lions 9... And people are saying Jameson Gibson-Park's going to start. I agree. And then it's like, is it going to be Alex Mitchell? Is it going to be Thomas Williams? Ben White actually is like quietly becoming one of the better nines in the Northern Hemisphere. Like because Finn Russell, his late distribution is his biggest strength, right? He'd take it right up to the line, just you said, and just last minute will fucking fire a pass across three guys. Mm-hmm. But there is a real speed at the breakdown that Scotland have, which is being delivered by the 9, and I think that deserves a bit of credit. Like every backline position they have is very good, you know, and they're just missing Tuipolatu, you know, because Hugh Jones and Tuipolatu together, that's already a thing.
It's just sad because this team is really playing how Gregor Townsend always wanted them to play.
Yeah,
he's finally developed this team into this very loose. Fast attacking team, and he just can't. Like, there's just these teams that are bigger.
Yep, and there's not another gear for Scotland, is there?
And they just can't get past. There's just certain walls they just can't get past.
Yeah, I agree. I say this a lot, and I don't mean it to sound rude, but this is Scotland's ceiling. Because they just do not have the money, the population of rugby players, the professional teams to go much further. And it's sad because this is a really good Scotland backline. And like you said, their forwards are class. Like Jamie Ritchie is still one of the best fucking flankers in the world.
He's got to be the most underrated.
Yeah. We never talk about him in terms of line selection.
He doesn't
get
talked about a lot, but he's fucking fantastic.
Yeah. And Pierre Schumann as well. I think he's a fucking incredible player, and he's fast for a prop, you know? Like, so they've got so many good players who don't get talked about enough. But I just don't... But again, their bench just doesn't have... the impact that every other team has. And now we're in the age of the bench, aren't we? We're in the age of the 7-1 splits and things. They just don't have that.
But of course, like Jamie Ritchie is definitely not talked about enough.
Yeah.
Hugh Jones.
Yeah.
Fuck, he's good.
He's fucking good.
Hugh Jones is...
He's fucking
good.
The boy. He's the boy.
He's the boy, man. I wish him and Tuipolatu were playing together because that was
the main character story. That was one of the fairy tales we were denied.
That would have been the fairy tale. Like
that was we've been denied some fairy tales this year.
Like I don't like to say that one player is going to make or break a team.
No, but he does.
But I think
he regularly is the main character in any given game he's in. You know, he fucking regularly is that.
You know what I thought had a decent game too this game that I kind of don't really rate was Dave Cherry. He was just
The
doing some
local
shit.
plumber.
He was playing hard on that
Yeah,
field. I was like,
he's
you know
good.
what? The fucking plumber is
Yeah.
I like this guy.
No, I
I
like Dave
like what
Cherry.
he's bringing to the game.
Yeah,
I like this a lot.
And you can tell, even though Scotland have lost some games, they're still really confident and they believe they can win.
Yeah.
You know, to say some things about France because they fucking won.
Motherfucker Jones.
Because they still really good rugby team.
Yeah, he got away. They're so good. It's just like France are just so good.
Okay. Keep
You
going.
could see how DuPont being gone, their attack was
Just as good.
no, it was just kind of missing.
Oh, yeah.
Like
I
they did
Luku.
score, they scored a lot of tries, but in this game, but they were playing a lot on the back foot, and a lot of their tries came off of just fuck ups from Scotland.
They were pouncing, weren't they?
They were pouncing.
They were ambush
very New
predators.
Zealandish.
They was New Zealandish.
Yeah, very New Zealandish.
Yeah.
Louis Biel-Barry, the new star.
Yeah.
This is the thing too. That I think France. The scary thing about France is this is right now. I don't think anyone would beat them.
No.
How good they are.
I would love to see South Africa France right now. That would be
I would love to see that
that'd
too.
be such a fucking game.
Anywhere in the world too. I don't care.
No.
France have a very similar problem to England. I think they got these best players in the world, and I think Galtier is actually kind of holding them back. I think they could be an even better team.
Oh, okay. This is a hot
I think
take.
they could be an even better team, and I think Galtier, with his old school coaching, I think he's kind of holding this team back from being even better.
Do you know one of the problems of Sean Edwards in relation to Galtier is any team Sean Edwards is in, it's like anything good that happens, people assume it's Sean Edwards doing it. Because I still can't really tell you what style of coach Galtier is. He's good.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I can't quite put my finger on what he's doing.
He's benefiting from having some of the most talented players in the world.
Yes.
And it's just, I feel like if they had a really, really good coach, like a really, a more progressive coach, they would be unbelievable.
Because France...
So we have to thank the French Union and the English Rugby Union for keeping these guys and holding their teams back, because really, I honestly feel like Galtier is kind of holding the French back.
I was thinking about this morning. You know, back in the 90s where Wales was shit and Ireland was shit and Scotland were the Five Nations champions but still basically shit, it was all England and France for a long time because they had significantly larger populations of rugby players, significantly more money. They should have won all those games. We're getting back to that era now where the money, the resources, the talent they can draw from means that, you know, England should beat Wales 99% of the time, and it's just because we like rugby and we're passionate about it that we do, you know, we can compete. But if you look at the resources available, France and England should be winning all these games, right? And you're right, it's because they can never quite synchronize in the right way that it hasn't always worked out that way. But the day that those two countries really synergize their resources in the right way, and France is starting to do that, that's a scary day for all the rest of us, you know?
The French youth are incredible. Yeah. The kids coming up, they have pretty much 3 professional leagues.
Yeah, they do.
They're filling out stadiums all the way down to the 100th division.
Yeah.
The rugby's really healthy.
You know what I was going to say on that point? I was reading just yesterday how not only is French rugby in the traditional French places like the south of France popular, it's becoming like a real French passion game now, you know? Yeah. That's kind of a scary thing for us, right? It's popular there, you know?
Yeah. And I think they just have... This really exposes what a good coach is and what a bad coach is in my eyes. Because if you take a team that doesn't have these resources, that doesn't have the talent pool, and can squeeze the most out of their players, the number one coach that comes to mind, Gregor Townsend.
Yep. In this tournament,
he has taken what he has and squeezed the most out of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? If you put Gregor Townsend in front of... Imagine if you gave Gregor Townsend access to the England players. Yeah. What he would create.
Oh, Lord.
Imagine what he would do there.
Yeah.
Right? Here is infinite money and a bazillion players in your pool. Yeah. Have fun. He would fucking turn them into no one would ever beat them again. Yeah. If you gave, because he is this is a resourceful coach.
He is.
When you really look at Gregor Townsend,
he's the fucking MacGyver of rugby, isn't he?
He's the MacGyver of rugby because he has
rubbing
to
two sticks together.
Yeah, it's like here you got 2 rubber bands, a stick,
some tape.
Yeah, some tape. Can
you make an airplane? Fuck right, I can.
Yeah, and he does.
Yeah, he does.
Right? And that's the kind of coach that France and England are missing.
Yeah.
Right? He's like
an innovator.
Yeah.
A sexy young innovating coach.
Gregor Townsend, when you really think about it, we really put it down to that.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck. He needs a lot more credit than he gets.
Do you ever see those? Do you ever see the movie Moneyball?
Yeah.
And they have like documentaries about this where they'll like show some situation. It'll be like a football club or it could be a sports hall, and it's like, we were spending money in all the wrong places. We were doing all these things wrong, and then we bought in this guy, Gregor Townsend. And then there's like a close-up of his face, like walking through the office just in simple clothes, like, he's a numbers guy. He took it real back down to basics. And he walks into the room, and he's like, guys, today we're doing press-ups, 100 press-ups. And we just did 100 press-ups every day. And then like a few years later, they're just like winning the World Cup, Like he's that guy, right? Like he's just resourceful. He's on the money. He knows what he's doing. And I agree, like Steve Borthwick, like I do take back some of what I've said, but I do agree with you, like, he is wasteful with what he's doing. He doesn't understand attack.
Whoa, don't throw out those bones. You can make a good stew with that afterwards. He's using all scraps from everything.
Yeah.
Like he's just he's just resourceful.
Yeah.
He never throws out a piece of wood.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And all the other coaches are in 3-piece suits, and he turns up in a tracksuit. He's like, that's disrespectful. And he goes, maybe you're disrespecting your team. And everyone's like, whoa.
Because he could just when you look at it, this is the coach that England and France need.
Yeah.
They need someone that can really utilize the talent.
And
I feel like Gelty is too worried about, I could be wrong too, but I feel like he's too worried. He's more of a control coach.
Yeah.
Borthwick is more of a control coach.
Yeah. And you can tell that with Galtier, because when he was slagging off the Irish players for what he thought was a deliberate injury of Dupont, right? It said a bit more about his character than the incident itself. It said, I need those guys. Mm-hmm. They my career is resting upon Dupont's ability to play. I need Dupont. You can't fucking touch him. That was the vibes I got, because it was sad that happened, and I do think we need to talk about what goes on in the breakdown. But to say Tadhg and Porter did that deliberately is fucking bullshit. Mm-hmm. And when Galtier said all those things, I just got that impression that he was just like a kid losing his toys a bit,
I feel like there's these. I feel like the type of coach that's kind of on the way out, that Borthwick and Geltier are. There's the coach that comes in with the system, and then gets the players, to work in the system, to learn the system, and then there's coaches that come in, they look at their players and what they have, and they build their system around their players,
and they're able to adapt when they go or new guys come in.
What are my resources? What kind of tools? What kind of materials do I have? Okay, now I'm going to implement a plan around that. When Geltier comes in, he's got a plan. This is how we're going to play. They're professional players. They should be able to learn how to do this. And then we're going to play this plan. This is the plan I've came up with. When instead of developing the plan around the players, right? And I think Borthwick and Geltier are those two coaches that they come in with the plan. They have the plan. The players have to adapt to the 100%. Plan.
This is why, for me, Rassie Erasmus is the best coach, because, yes, he's got incredible resources, but he does build his game plan around making sure everyone is adaptable in that team, right? Like, he knows that someone like Manny Lebok is a fantastic player, but can't always kick his goals. He still uses him, and he's got someone like Feinberg and Gomezulu on the field at the same time, right? He will play guys out of position, and he will do it in the right way. He won't just, what on the morning of the game, actually, I'm just going to switch you to 7 like Eddie Jones used to do. He will prepare them mentally. I want you to be available in this position, like someone like Juaga Smith, right? He knows how to use that guy in different positions because he was a 7s player. He's adaptable and modern, but he still has that old school, we know our strengths, we know we're a forward-heavy team, but I will make all these guys adaptable and be able to play in different positions, right? Like, it's a team that anyone can slot into different positions, and it works, Yeah, granted, he does have fucking rock stars in every position, but we see that in France and England where they do have incredible talent and they underachieve, right? South Africa is still greater than the sum of their parts, despite having very good players.
I think that Razzie with the Springboks,
he's
embraced what he has as players, and he's brought them to the pinnacle of their abilities with the systems that he's implementing on the team.
Yeah.
And he's at a point now where they're so good. The systems are so settled. He's actually able to now grow and experiment.
Exactly.
He can actually bring external things into the system
without upsetting it.
Yeah. And he's like, hey, we're going to try something different. I know this is kind of out of your guys' wheelhouse, but we're so good at our current system.
Yeah. We
have it so locked down. It's so customized to everyone.
Yeah.
Now we can experiment now.
Yeah.
And I think another coach that's like that too is Andy Farrell. Andy Farrell's a really good, he really utilizes what he has. And has created, and that's why he's had a lot of success.
Yeah, and I think you see that because Simon Easterby did a reasonable job of keeping the ship going, but there were moments, and they were important moments, where I think Andy Farrell would have won a Grand Slam. And I think that game where they were missing James Lowe and they got battered by France, I think Andy Farrell would have known what to have done tactically to make that game. France was so good on that day, but I just believe that Andy Farrell would have made that game a much closer game, if not a win, at home in Dublin. He would have motivated. What I see about Andy Farrell is a motivator. He knows how to use the emotion of an occasion to say, this is the fucking day, boys. If I have to play Calvin Nash in the wing, I'm hyping him up. He's like, you think James Lowe is better than you? Like, prove me fucking wrong.
He's fearless, He is.
He
likes it when his back's up
he
against
loves
the
that.
wall.
Yeah.
He's like, put us under pressure.
Yeah. Whereas he used to be felt to by the book. He was like, I have a good team. I'm just going to put them out there. And it's like, this is Momani's last ever home game. Like, use that occasion. Motivate that man so he is the war pig we know, right? He goes out there and fucking eats people's faces off. He's that desperate to win, right? Because I didn't see that from him. Like, I love Omani as a player, but we didn't see that fucking ferocity that we normally do from him, right? Like, so I'm not saying I he's a good coach. I just think he doesn't quite have the experience that someone like Farrell does, you know? Anyway.
And that's the Six Nations.
That was the summary of the
Six Nations of Six Nations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we talked about everything we were going to talk about.
Yeah, okay. Jersey watch.
Oh, do you want a jersey watch?
Not really. I was going to say those Marvel jerseys are shit. That was kind of it.
I haven't even seen them.
They're awful. They're awful.
I haven't fucking seen this.
Yeah. They did it before. Who's
wearing them?
I think mostly South. I think it's the South African. No, it's not South African. Is it? It's South African teams, I think. Oh, I can't even remember. Anyway, there's like a Spider-Man one.
I've seen them. They did that years ago.
They did it years ago, and they looked better years ago somehow.
I didn't like them years ago either.
Maybe it's because I was a child then, and I was impressionable. But now I'm an adult, and I look at them and go, oh. The Ospreys, who play in black, they had a Batman jersey one year. And it was it was cool. It suited them, right? Because their symbol is kind of batish and black anyway, you know?
Yeah.
It suited them. But like, anyway, whatever. Jersey watch, shit jerseys.
Well, friends, thank you for listening to the Friends of Rugby Pod. Like and share the podcast. Email us at thefriendsofrugbypod@gmail.com. And have a good one, folks. Frank, take us out.
Hwyl fawr.